Story 2: The Wrong Burn. Captain June Park had always trusted quiet ships more than loud ones. Loud ships announced their injuries. They rattled when bearings wore down, screamed when seals failed, hammered when pumps lost alignment. Loud ships begged for help. Quiet ships were worse. Quiet ships absorbed damage, tucked it into structure, and waited until the crew had begun to believe the problem was small. The Verdant Mule had gone quiet. Not silent, never silent. A ship that large was a town of machines pretending to be one machine. Fans, pumps, valves, ducts, relays, motors, servos, and the soft living whisper of thousands of plants under artificial light. But after the debris strike, the usual layered hum had thinned into something careful. June heard it from the flight deck. He sat strapped into the command chair with one hand braced against the edge of the navigation console and the other hovering above the manual attitude controls. Outside the forward glass, Mars was no longer a red bead where it should have been. It had slid off the expected mark. Not far enough for the eye to panic, but far enough for the computer to refuse every solution it was offered. That refusal bothered June more than the alarms. "Star Trek III is still giving me garbage," he said. Lenora Pike's voice answered through the engineering channel. "Define garbage. 3 different skies in 12 seconds. That is ambitious, not useful. Ambition rarely is." June looked across the cockpit at the secondary display. Theo had clipped himself into the right-hand jump seat to act as a spare pair of hands, because the actual spare pair of hands was aft, trying to keep the ship from cooking itself. Theo had gone quiet too. That June disliked on principle. "You still with me, Briggs?" Theo looked up from the checklist slate. "Physically, yes. Emotionally, I am somewhere with gravity and soup." "Good enough. Read me radiator status." Theo swallowed, then found the right column. "Starboard radiator plane is reporting 3 punctures, 1 hard isolation, 2 partial flow restrictions. Port plane is compensating at 78%. Thermal margin?" Lenora labeled the margin as rude. June closed his eyes for half a second. "Actual number. 8 minutes before port plane exceeds safe transfer load if we keep current power draw." 8 minutes. The number entered the cockpit and sat there like a 7th crew member. June switched the flight deck channel to all stations. "Crew, this is Park. We are not in immediate danger, but we are in a narrowing box. Engineering, I need thermal options. Nursery, I need discretionary power reduced to survival levels only. Cargo, I need mass shift estimates if we secure for burn." Mara answered first from the nursery. "Grow lights already at reduced intensity. I can drop non-essential racks to pulse mode, but Anika is going to say something unkind." Anika came on immediately. "I am going to say that seedlings do not appreciate being negotiated with during trauma." "Can they tolerate pulse mode?" June asked.
There was half a second of silence. June pictured Anika making a face at the question, because he had used tolerate instead of thrive. "For a few hours," she said. "Some cultures will stress. Nothing should die. Do it. I dislike that you are right." Logged. Malik Okonkwo broke in from aft engineering. His breathing was heavy, and there was metal noise behind him. "Captain, I can give Lenora more thermal margin if I bypass the damaged loop around pump stack 2 and route through the cargo spine." Lenora answered before June could. "That line was never rated for sustained coolant flow." "Neither was my patience." "Malik." "I know. Temporary only. 10 minutes, maybe 12, before the line gets warmer than I trust." June watched Mars drift another fraction across the glass. "Do it." Lenora said, "Captain, that buys time but adds failure points. We are out of options that do not." No one argued. That was another thing June disliked. The Verdant Mule had been built for predictable work. Earth orbit to Mars transfer to Earth return. Carry plants, carry tools, carry people with steady hands and boring habits. It was not armored. It was not fast. It was not clever in ways that mattered during a debris strike. It was a freight hauler with greenhouse bones, and now those bones had been hit by something too small to see and too fast to forgive. On the central display, the computer tried another trajectory reconstruction. Rejected. June tapped the screen harder than necessary. Try it again. The ship did. Rejected. Theo glanced at him. Does tapping help? No. Should I tap something too? Only if it deserves it. From aft engineering, Malik grunted. Several things back here deserve it. The bridge lights dipped. The artificial horizon on June's display rolled 2 degrees, corrected, then rolled back 1. The Verdant Mule's attitude thrusters fired in short, irritated bursts. June felt the correction through his chair as a pressure against the straps. That was not me, he said. Lenora replied, Guidance attempted auto-correction using damaged array data. Tell Guidance to stop helping. I am removing its confidence. Do that faster. June switched 3 flight systems from advisory to manual lockout. The alarms changed pitch as if offended by his lack of faith. In the right-hand jump seat, Theo read from the mast display. Cargo shift risk is manageable if we burn under 0.2 G. Above that, the FIG frame in Bay 2 becomes a lawsuit. We are well past legal categories. A physics lawsuit, then. Noted. The engineering channel crackled. Malik's voice came through, strained. Bypasses open. Coolant moving through cargo spine. I see flow. How angry is it? Moderately. That is basically consent. It is absolutely not. June watched the thermal clock slow. 8 minutes became 12. 12 became 14 and held. They had time. Not enough to be safe. Enough to choose the wrong thing carefully. Navigation, June said to the computer. Display all possible correction burns to Mars intercept within remaining propellant margin. The screen populated with red. Red boxes, red vectors, red warnings. One amber solution appeared near the bottom. June opened it. Theo leaned in despite himself. Is amber better than red, right?
Amber means the computer is nervous instead of certain. I prefer nervous. June did not. The amber burn would swing them wide, use more propellant than he liked, and require a long coast before Mars capture. It assumed the aft star tracker could be recalibrated. It assumed the starboard radiator plane would remain isolated. It assumed the cargo spine bypass would survive the burn. It assumed too many things, but each assumption was at least possible. Then the amber solution flickered. For 1 second, the target point shifted. Not Mars. Some other gravity well, faint and unnamed, hidden behind the debris cloud data like a smudge on glass. Then Mars returned. June stilled. Theo, I saw it. Tell me you saw it wrong. Theo's face had gone pale. I would love to. June pulled up the raw gravitational map. The Verdant Mule was not a survey vessel. Its database was practical and cheap. It knew lanes, stations, hazard zones, rescue corridors, fuel depots, and planets that mattered to invoices. The faint object at the edge of the display had no name, only a catalog number, PX721, a placeholder, a maybe. Lenora came on the channel. Captain, why did Guidance request deep field gravitational correction? June did not answer immediately. Outside, the stars remained fixed. That was the lie of distance. Nothing looked urgent until it was already too late. Because the damaged array may be blending Mars intercept data with an uncharted mass object, he said. Silence. Then Annika, quiet from the nursery. Uncharted mass object. Theo muttered, That is a phrase that gets people written about in accident reports. June expanded the display again. The ship's current path bent toward the wrong darkness by an amount so small it looked like an accounting error. Accounting errors could ruin companies. Trajectory errors could ruin oxygen. "Can we verify with optical?" Lenora asked. "Star Tracker 3 is unreliable. Tracker 1 is partially occluded. Tracker 2 is using heat-distorted reference through the damaged radiator plane. So no? So not well." Malik cut in. "Captain, I am physically inside the cargo spine access with a coolant line that sounds like a tea kettle lying to me. Whatever we are doing, I vote soon." June looked at the amber Mars solution, then at the faint PX marker, then at the thermal clock. The right answer would have been to stop time, repair the array, rebuild the radiator, run every calculation twice, and make a decision with clean numbers. Space rarely offered the right answer. It offered clocks. "Lenora," June said, "if we burn from Mars intercept on the amber solution and the PX mass is real, what happens? I need 30 seconds. You have 15. The channel filled with key taps, breath, and the distant thud of Malik doing something mechanical and impolite. Lenora returned at 14 seconds. "If PX is real and the current nav blend is wrong, the Mars correction becomes an assist toward the object instead of away from it." Theo whispered, "Wrong burn." June heard him. Everyone heard him. "If we do nothing?" June asked. Lamara's voice was flatter now. "Thermal load climbs. Guidance drift continues. We may lose controlled attitude before we have a cleaner solution. If we burn conservatively, we might preserve control but fail Mars intercept. If we burn hard,
we might make Mars, or commit ourselves to PX-7. The ship gave another careful knock. John looked at his crew roster. 6 names, 6 heartbeats tied to his decisions. He had never liked the romantic idea of command. It sounded noble in stories and mostly felt like choosing which problem would be allowed to hurt people first. "All stations," he said, "prepare for controlled correction burn at 0.15 G. We are not using the full Mars solution. We are buying distance from the debris field and preserving attitude control." Lenora said, "That may cost us Mars." "I know." Anika said, "It saves the ship? It gives us a ship to save." That settled it. The next 3 minutes became hands. John's hands over manual controls, Theo's hands locking cargo mass data, Lenora's hands moving between thermal maps and life support overlays, Malik's hands buried in hot machinery, Mara's hands securing valve lines and seed trays, Anika's hands strapping irreplaceable routes into place. People like to talk about spaceflight as math. John had always thought of it as trust. Trust the engineer who says the line will hold for 10 minutes when both of you know 8 is safer. Trust the botanist who says the seedlings will survive pulse light when her voice says she hates the choice. Trust the cargo master who jokes because fear needs somewhere to go. Trust the ship, even when the ship is lying. "Burn in 10, John said. Theo tightened his straps. "For the record, I prefer scheduled burns." Noted. "With snacks?" Denied. "Root command environment." 5. The cockpit narrowed to numbers. 4. Mars on the wrong mark. 3. Thermal margin thin as wire. 2. PX-721 glowing faintly at the edge of the map. 1. Jun fired the burn. The verdant mule pushed back against them. Not hard. 0.15 G was barely a hand on the chest, but after weeks of microgravity it felt like judgment. Straps tightened. Loose droplets streaked aft. Somewhere in the nursery, trays groaned against their locks. The ship's damaged bones took the load and complained through every deck. "Attitude holding," Theo said. "Thermal climbing," Lenora said. "Coolant bypass is yelling," Malik said. Jun kept his hand on the controls and his eyes on the burn timer. 30 seconds. The guidance array tried to correct left. Jun overrode it. 40 seconds. The aft thruster cluster lagged. He compensated with forward starboard. 50 seconds. The Mara solution flickered red. PX 721 brightened. Captain? I see it. 60 seconds. Lenora's voice cut in. Cargo spine temperature rising faster than modeled. Malik said, because the model has never met this stupid ship. Can it hold? Jun asked. Define hold, Malik. Yes. Short answer, yes. Longer answer involves smoke. The cockpit lights dimmed again. For a moment, Jun saw the nursery bay in his mind. Basil leaves under reduced light, fig trees strapped crooked, Mara watching plants for signs the computer missed. He thought of Earth behind them and Mars ahead of them and the dark placeholder to one side that was not supposed to matter. The burn timer reached 70. The navigation display changed. Mars intercept failed. The words appeared without drama. Jun did not feel them at first.
He only felt the ship. Still intact. Still answering. Still theirs. Cutting burn, he said. He shut the engines down. The sudden return to near weightlessness lifted Theo half an inch against his straps. A loose stylus drifted between them, spinning lazily as if nothing important had happened. For 3 seconds, no one spoke. Then Malik said, I have no fire. Lenora said, Thermal road falling. Mara said, Nursery secure, some rack shift, nothing loose. Annika said, Seedlings are insulted but alive. Theo looked at the navigation display and did not make a joke. Jun unlatched one strap, then stopped. His hands wanted to move, to reset the display, to force the computer to offer a kinder answer. Instead, he made himself read the result as written. Current trajectory. Mars intercept unavailable. Projected path, deep field object PX 721. Estimated time to gravitational influence. Unknown pending sensor recovery. Unknown. That was the word that finally entered him. Not lost. Lost was emotional. Unknown was technical. Unknown could be measured, narrowed, argued with, survived. Jun opened the all-crew channel. Crew? This is Park. He paused only once. Not because he did not know what to say, because he did. The correction burn stabilized the ship. We are clear of debris field and thermal load is decreasing, but the navigation solution failed Mars intercept. Our current trajectory is toward an uncharted mass object cataloged as PX 721. No one interrupted. He could hear the ship around them, quiet and wounded and still moving. We are alive, Jun said. We have power, we have air, we have water. We have a damaged ship that still answers. That is enough for the next problem. This time, Theo did speak. Captain? Go. For morale purposes, should we give PX 721 a less terrible name? Jun looked out the forward glass. Mars was no longer where the story said it should be. Ahead there was only dark. Not yet, he said. In the nursery, Mara's voice came softly over the channel. The plants will need one. Jun almost smiled. Almost. Then keep them alive long enough to complain. The channel filled with the small sounds of people returning to work. Malik muttering about hotlines, Lenora assigning checks, Annika demanding route scans, Mara calling for clean straps, Theo updating the manifest because even the unknown apparently required inventory. Jun stayed in the command chair and watched the display rebuild the universe around a new mistake. The burn had been wrong. It had also saved them. For now, that would have to be enough.